This episode of the SwitchCast is produced by Ethan Auburn, our honored Patreon member and SwitchCats.
Hi everybody, I'm Casey.
And I'm JV.
And this is the SwitchCast, the podcast for the Nintendo Switch Racketeer.
Oh yeah.
And we are serving up quite a show for everybody today with a joint set of reviews. Actually, a very interesting week in that JV and I have both been playing two of the same games, and they're both, I guess, Pong-ish in nature?
Definitely more advanced than Pong, but you know. It's in the same principle.
I mean, that's like the core of all this, the genre of the tennis, the bouncing balls back and forth kind of games. Yes.
So if you haven't noticed, we will be doing Mario Tennis Aces and Spirit Sphere DX, which, you know, funnily enough, is kind of on the similar, it's kind of in the similar genre, though it's different takes on that basic fundamental Pong gameplay.
Yeah, kind of an interesting little comparison there, and just how things worked out, you know?
And if you think about it, Pong is kind of one of, if not the first PvP multiplayer game, right?
Yeah. No, I think it is, especially in arcades. I think it was possibly the first multiplayer arcade game in that they realized, hey, we can get people to put lots of quarters in if every so often someone could put in another one and challenge the first player, and we can, you know, only the person who wins can keep playing.
Yeah, see, there you go. This is definitely the precursor to the games we're talking about today, but I'm honestly pretty excited with all the stuff we're saying.
No, yeah, it's been a very big week for not just the games, but like the community. It's been something that's been getting a lot of people motivated. We have a lot to talk about. We're already, you know, the people already been playing with each other. Tournaments have been going. It's quite an energetic time there. But I do want to tell everybody though, we might not be here to follow through on all this hype next week, because it seems like for the first time in, I'd say, about a year and a half, neither of us are actually going to be around to cover for the other for the podcast next week. So I think there's a pretty good chance that we might not actually have a show for you after this week.
Right. We'll definitely do what we can to put something out, but just to let you all know, if there's no show next week, it does not mean that your feed is broken or that we're done forever. It's just, you know, just one single momentary break.
Yes, so I'm going on a vacation to Texas next week, and I do plan actually to give that Switch case that I reviewed last week, the one with the built-in battery. I figured, you know, before I take the video and I give it my final full review, I might as well take it on this actual long-term trip where I'm going to use it to its like full capabilities and really spend some time with it rather than just on my morning commute back and forth. Like a thing that I have to have my Switch live out of for a full week.
You're definitely going to put it through its paces, and I think that would be a deserved course of action to fully review the actual battery.
Yes. And on top of that, actually, I had another piece of periphery that I am excited to talk about is I just backed a Kickstarter for something this week, and it's one of the first ones I've actually saw something that I really needed. You know, I'm not going to get my hands on it until November. So it's a little ways off, but this totally spoke to me. It's something that I had to back, and I think some other people might be interested in it too. Did you see the tweets or anything that we about this thing?
No, I have no idea what you're going to be referring to.
This is the Genki Bluetooth audio adapter for the Nintendo Switch.
Huh, okay. So what does it do special?
Well, it's an adapter that plugs right into the USB-C port of the Nintendo Switch, right?
Okay.
So it doesn't need any batteries. So it plugs right into the USB-C port of the Nintendo Switch. It's actually designed to feel like a part of the Switch. You know, the coloring of it, it has the same kind of like style, the round edges, and it also has the blue and red colors of the Joy-Cons to match that look and feel of the system there for these two buttons that are on it. It actually can support two different sets of Wi-Fi headphones at a time as well. So it's not just good for one person to use their Bluetooth headphones, but two people can actually be streaming the sound to their individual headphones through this device.
That's actually a bigger deal than people might bring it out to be, because if you're playing multiplayer, let's say on an airplane or a bus, being able to connect two devices to one Bluetooth adapter is really good for that multiplayer experience.
Yeah, so it fulfills that. It's nice that you could share it with other people. And in addition, I mean, when we eventually get Netflix and all those kind of apps on there too, I watch a lot of stuff with the missus on my devices. Being able to both have our headsets individually rather than normally we have to share one pair of headphones, and that's usually how we watch something together, like on a train or whatever. It will be nice to both of us have our own headsets connecting to it there. It's been designed not to take too much charge from the Switch itself, so it just runs totally off of its power, so you don't have to charge it separately. It's a pretty cool looking device. Anyway, I'm excited for it, but of course, with any Kickstarter, you get excited and then you have to wait until you get it. So hopefully, I think around October, November is when we're supposed to get our hands on this. So
it's a pretty neat device, and it isn't obtrusive, and it's not something that's incredibly bulky to carry around.
Right. Well, that's the main thing, is like all the other options for solutions are something that was it has to either be connected to the back of the system, or it's just this whole other thing that is a little clunky. This just kind of seamlessly integrates into the Switch in an unobtrusive way.
And I do like that the left and right sides match the neon blue and neon red of the Switch multicolor. I like that. It's a nice touch.
Right. Yeah. It's pretty cool. So anyway, I'm hoping that'll come through. It's definitely got the funding. I'll put a link to it in the show notes if anyone's interested in also checking this out and maybe backing it. It's $30 for the, that was the day one pledge. I think that's already gone. So I think now it's about $40. There's also an adapter for the docked mode if you want to do that. That's another $10. I'll leave the link. Check it out if you like it, and we'll see how this goes. Other than that, we have, like I said, we have a whole bunch of reviews for you guys this week. We mentioned Mario Tennis Aces, Spirit Sphere DX. We have a lot of news, and we're going to go over, we're going to talk in the Community Pulse about what other possible sports-like games maybe you guys are excited about or would like to see come to the Switch. It's a genre that we don't really talk about that much on this podcast, but I think games like this, these unconventional sports games, are the kind of things that really speak to at least most of the people in this community. But there's a few hardcore sports fans in there too. So.
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of funny because the World Cup is going on right now, and that's a soccer game. That's a football game. We're covering tennis, but it kind of has a similar sports feel, and in a way, it's tangentially related. So we're a little bit topical, right?
Oh no! Everyone in my office is watching the mostly because there was an office pool.
Yeah, so we actually have a whole team based in Brazil. So you can just imagine how insane they went today during the Brazil versus Russia match. I think it was they dedicated a whole segment of time during work to just watch it and drop all of the activities that we needed to do.
That's pretty funny. Yeah,
it's pretty
cool.
Awesome. I mean, I understand it's Brazil. They take it. It's a big deal for them.
I mean, it's a big deal. It's only, it's one of those special events. It only happens every so many years. I think the World Cup's not every year, right? I think it's once every
4 years.
Once every 4 years. Okay, like the Olympics used to be.
It is definitely a big deal, especially in that culture, in Latin culture, and you know, around the world. It's a very unified thing, and I'm really glad that that it's something that brings together, just like the Switch.
You know, we all like getting hyped about stuff together, so
yeah, it's true. People within the Discord chat are super hyped about it in the off-topic section, and even though I don't really pay attention to the World Cup myself, I'm just really hyped by everyone else's hype. It's infectious.
Oh, I also wanted to give a quick shout out to, you drew my attention, JV, to the latest reviews we got on the Apple Podcasts app, and I just wanted to thank everybody who answered our call last week to leave more reviews on wherever you listen to us there. But I do have to say, some of the things you guys said are way nicer than we deserve. Honestly, it's like...
Yeah, it's incredibly humbling and flattering. Sincerely appreciate everything that you guys say about the podcast. It's really great.
It's crazy. I mean, thank you guys. And, I always say leave reviews, but also, I guess I just want to remind you guys also that, subscribing, if you haven't already, is just another, if you don't want to miss an episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and make sure that your podcast feed of wherever it comes from always keeps you up to date so you can, listen to the newest episode as soon as we come out. Of course, I know a lot of you guys are listening like a few episodes back. I always find that curious. I'm the kind of guy who always has to listen to the newest thing right now, and then maybe I'll work my way backwards if I missed an episode. I just think it's interesting that there's people who are always like, I'll get to the newest one eventually. I don't need to hear the newest things right away. Yeah,
it's definitely interesting to hear when people go through our episodes chronologically, and if they miss a week or two, they still have to start a previous point. It's kind of like we're a serial somehow, and we have some weird continuity that people have to pay attention to. Kind of.
I just, at least maybe that means they won't feel that they're missing so much since we won't be here next week. It'll just give them a chance to catch up with the newer episodes a little bit.
Absolutely. But rest assured, we will be back the week after next week in full force, ready to go.
And hopefully I will have Pocket Rumble to talk about by then.
Don't jinx it, Casey. Do not jinx it at this point.
All right, let's move into the game time, and let's start digging into some of these games, yo.
Absolutely, let's do it.
All right, game time, and we should go straight for the ace. And let's talk about Mario Tennis Aces, the big game, something that we've been waiting for a while. We've had a lot of speculation about how it's going to play out and what this twist on tennis was going to be like. So JV, tell me first and foremost, what has your experience been with this so far? Like, you picked it up. What have you been playing? Mostly the story mode? Have you gone into multiplayer? Have you just been playing the piece, against the AI in regular matches?
So I actually have primarily gone through the adventure mode. I haven't even touched any of the multiplayer whatsoever. This is one of those situations where the multiplayer and the mechanics of the game seem kind of intimidating, and I want to make sure that I'm full-fledged, ready to go, completed with a single player before I hop on to multiplayer with friends.
Now that's kind of funny. That's a very interesting word to use there. Intimidating. Now, a Mario game in general almost should never feel intimidating in any way, right? Generally, you expect it to be the most approachable, friendly thing, cuddly. Anyone could win, but you're right. I will give you that. It definitely feels more like a game that if you're worried about winning and losing, especially considering the nature, it's a one-on-one game. Let's compare this to, say, Mario Kart, where it's an every man for himself 12-character race. That just makes it feel like, oh, if I didn't win, it's not a big deal. Anything can happen. The weapons can cause anybody to win at any time. So it always just kind of feels lighthearted. But in this, you are personally responsible for your winning and losing. There's really there's not much room for luck to save you. So it is kind of a test of skill. And I can see that being a jarring amount of, like, a little bit of pressure on some people to go and actually take on the online multiplayer mode.
Now, I do want to set a caveat with that word. I don't want to say that it's unapproachable, because the intimidating nature that I'm referring to is really just the tournament and the competitive aspect of this game. If you want to go into Mario Tennis Aces just being a casual fan of Mario Tennis games, you like tennis, and you like the kooky little quirks that Mario games can bring in, I feel like this game is very approachable in that sense.
So let's talk about the most approachable mode, this adventure mode that is in the game there then. Let's start with that. So, adventure mode is just, it's kind of a basic Mario-ish type story, except, Mario just wins whatever tennis tournament that he happens to be taking part in, and then all of a sudden, some mummified Wario and Waluigi show up. They kidnap Luigi, and now Mario has to go rescue him.
Yeah.
And they have to go gather some power stones that are scattered around the map in order to stop the magic racket from regaining its ancient power to control people.
Yes, it's definitely really weird that this is the type of story that they're going with in a Mario game. I actually kind of dig it, and I wasn't expecting the story to be as thematic as this one, but I was surprised by the fact that they even bothered to include some sort of story in this.
Well, the thing is, though, that normally a Mario game has the little intro, whatever stupid story reason for Mario to go off, and then you just go on the map and you take on stages, and after you beat stages, you go on to the next thing. In here, though, they actually do have, if you care to read it, a little reason for why you're taking on every challenge. It looks like a regular Mario game in that you go from location to like red dot to red dot. Yeah, and sometimes the path branches.
Yeah.
But each branch has a little thing like, hey, you want to go across the water? Sure, but I'm not taking out the boat unless you beat me in a tennis match.
It actually, David and I really laughed super hard about this because the premise and the conceit of every single tennis match that you play reminds us of one of those card game animes or card game video games where literally every conflict or everything is solved by a card game. And in this case, it's a tennis game.
It actually reminded me more of like Professor Layton, how everybody like just needs help
a puzzle
related to a puzzle, and it's just like, can you solve this puzzle, or I'll only help you if you can figure out this Rubik's Cube or whatever.
Yeah, especially at the very beginning of the game for me, when you go into the Egyptian crypt and there's that one guy right before you enter the
dry bones?
The dry bones, right. And he's like, stop, I have to test if you truly, really like tennis or not. And then,
yes, right.
And that was so card game anime for me.
But there are at least, in some of the side branches you can go, there are not straight up tennis matches to take on, but there's those side challenges. And they are well designed in that they're not just pointless challenges. They feel like training exercises, things to make sure you're advancing your skills as you get through the game. Like one or two of them was just like a little target practice, and you had to hit a certain number of targets in a time limit, and it taught me how to control where I'm aiming. There's the one guy who you have to get, you have to make sure he never returns a ball, and that's really just a practice on how to hit lobs when the enemies, your opponent's really close, or how to hit the opposite of a lob when you just kind of like hit it really shallow. And it's just teaching you how to do that control really well and just get that skill nailed.
That was actually part of what made me really feel determined to go through the adventure mode before tackling multiplayer. When I initially picked up the game, I was like, okay, I'm going to quickly get through the beginning part of the adventure and almost completely ignore it to switch to the multiplayer. But once I started playing each individual level of the adventure, I started noticing that all of these levels were actually helping my skills. And those skills would actually translate to multiplayer. So maybe it would be a good idea for me to complete this first.
It is. It does do a good job. And I do highly suggest anyone who's just picking up this game to start with that adventure and do every side mission to completion. And some of the side missions do feel pretty hard if you're not grasping the skill they want you to master.
Yeah, it can get really tricky. Now, they're mostly optional, but some of them, most of them really I would recommend doing.
Yeah, I mean, they also give you the nice little bonus that a lot of them will unlock a new racket for you, and rackets kind of give you extra lives in tough matches, because there is some extra tennis abilities in this game that you can lose rackets in a match, and if you lose all your rackets in adventure mode, you lose that challenge prematurely, even if you had a lot of time left.
Right. And I noticed that breaking my tennis racket was the primary reason why I lost out on missions. At least early on. Once I got better at blocking, it was less of a concern, but early on, My rackets broke pretty regularly in all the challenges.
So why don't we use that as a jumping off point to talk about some of the special features? Yeah, special systems into this game here. Why don't you tell us about how the energy system and the special shots work?
Yeah, that's a good point. So you have the regular tennis mechanics. You're positioning left and right in the tennis court. You're hitting the ball with different styles of shots. Now, every single time you hit the ball, you do get a little bit of energy, which you can expend on, what were they called? Special...
Well, there's the star zone shots,
yes,
and there's the star time thing that you can catch.
Right.
For.
So there's star zone shots, there's star times. These are essentially maneuvers that you can take to really slam the ball and strike it to a specific position.
Yeah, and energy management is extremely important in the matches. It's really the source of the tug of war in most of the matches that I've encountered in the game. It's whoever can skillfully build up energy faster tends to have a significant edge in the battle.
Yeah, and it's a lot of getting good is figuring out when to use your energy for all those zone shots and when to use your energy for the zone time that slows down the time and lets you really pinpoint and maneuver your reaction. And I actually really like how this system works. Your one player is essentially expending energy in order to do big smashes like big zone shots or trick shots. But you can also reserve your energy on the defense to slow down time and react to all those dynamic shots that the opponents are throwing at you. And so there's a balancing act of whether you want to use your energy for offense, whether you want to use your energy for defense, or even for proper positioning. And that's what I think is just incredibly cool.
Now, the defense is something I think is also takes a lot of strategy to pick because you do have to pick your battle. So let's say so the way the star shots work is if you've built up enough energy to do a star shot, you'll see a star icon on your side of the court wherever the ball is going to land. And if you can get to that point in time before the ball reaches there and you hit the R button, you'll set up your super shot, and then you can aim exactly where you want to slam the ball. Now, the opponent at that point has to make a choice. Does he want to expend he'll probably need to slow down time at least somewhat in order to know where the ball's going and to properly try to block it. Or he could say, you know what? Pass. I'm not spending that energy on this, and I'm just not even going to try because a failed attempt at blocking a shot like a star shot like that will damage your racket. Or not to say a failed attempt, but if you don't perfectly block it, you'll send the shot back their way, but you're going to take a damage on your racket. And if you take 3 hits to your racket, it breaks, and you can set the option to whether that means you're KO'd from the match, and it can mean just prematurely end the match. Or I don't like that setting. It does mean eventually when your racket breaks, it's just a point for the other guy. So that defensive thing is pretty important. There's also the trick shots that people can do. If you hit the right joystick in a certain direction, you will leap and you can cover a very large piece of ground with that trick shot. But you also have to time that pretty well. And that will, if you can anticipate where the opponent is going to do his star shot, you can hit that direction. You don't have to even expend any of that energy, but you're committing to jumping in that direction. If you guessed wrong and he shot it straight at you, you're going to jump out of the way of the shot, which is kind of an interesting little guessing game you can do.
All of the options that are available to you are really interesting choices at the time. Even the super special shot that you get can be used in very interesting ways. Once you have your energy bar completely full, you get like a special cutscene animation shot that you can trigger whenever the ball is on your side, regardless of the position. So if there's a ball that you just absolutely cannot get to, but you have a full meter, your energy bar, boom, you can trigger your special shot, and that just lets you turn everything around and position your star shot immediately from any position. And I actually really like that.
It's a fancy thing, and it also has the effect if the opponent doesn't perfectly block it, it just breaks their racket regardless of hit points. So if you're playing in a KO match, your opponent really has to decide whether it's worth trying to block that shot or if he should just let it go, because that could be an instant loss if they don't perfectly defend that shot.
Yeah, there's quite a bit to the fundamental mechanics of this game. And I really like that about it. It takes the standard tennis formula and really adds a lot of additional decisions that you could make within the game itself.
Yeah, I do think so. I mean, I found myself in a lot of matches purposely not necessarily defending the ball or defending the center of the court as would typically be a good idea. I actually try to defend it a little off to the side, because if they try to shoot it to my undefended side, I can do a trick shot if it's, far enough away from me. And doing a trick shot at a distance like that will give you a big boost to your energy. So it's almost like I leave a weakness because I know I can actually defend it well and get a bonus from doing a more difficult shot that if they're willing to take the bait. That energy, like I said, that building up that energy and knowing what to use it on is really a tug of war. But I could see some people, it can also be kind of frustrating, because there's been times where I'm in a match and I'm just like, oh, he just did a star shot and he has enough power for a star shot, and I just wasted all my energy slowing down time to try to defend something, and I missed anyway. So now I have no energy, they have energy, and I'm just going to lose this next serve, anyway. So it can frustrate sometimes, but there's ways to come back if you're patient and you get really good at defense. But there's a pretty high skill cap, I'd say.
Yeah, I definitely think that if you really want to get good at this game, you can. And there's definitely a tournament scene for this game that I can see burgeoning in the future. I would love if Mario Tennis gets some sort of fighting game community level of competition and tournaments. I would really like to see that.
Now, what did you think about the different courts that you could play on in the game?
So I actually thought that they were an interesting twist to the standard formula of tennis. For example, there's one stage later on. I don't want to spoil any of the later stages, but there's one.
Don't worry, but I don't consider this spoilers.
Yeah, well, there's one stage where you're in a Boo Mansion, I believe, and there's moving portrait portals floating above the tennis nets, and they're moving around constantly. And if you hit a ball through one of them, they appear immediately outside of the other. And so,
but it shoots it back the way it came.
It shoots it back at you. So it's an interesting situation where you have to be mindful of the moving portals while also competing against your enemy. And while it's essentially about as fun as stage hazards in Smash, in that some people would be really frustrated by them and other people would really like the diversity.
See, that one I liked. I like the one where there's a piranha plant that can grab your ball and they'll
spit them back at you.
They'll spit it at the enemy. They keep it going in the same direction, but they just kind of interrupt the shot and maybe redirect it slightly. And I like that because you can react to it. Yeah. There's one stage I do not like.
Oh, it's the pole, isn't it?
The ship
yes!
with it has the mast in the middle.
Yes, it's a simple, such a simple stage hazard. There's no other weird moving parts. There's no other mechanics. There's literally just one gigantic mast in the middle of the nets. That's it. But that little mast changes so much, and it can be a little frustrating.
I don't, because all it is, sometimes if your opponent hits the ball into it, it'll ricochet it into the opposite direction. But more likely than not, you start running in the direction the ball's going, and then it hits the pole, and it goes in the opposite direction.
And you have no time to react.
And there's no time to react, and I feel like if I don't run after the ball, expecting it to bounce, then it doesn't hit the pole, and it goes on to the other side, and I just missed it because of that. And it's just, I feel like I lost so many points just because I reacted to it. I reacted to a shot the way I should, and then it just 50-50 shot. If you hit it, yeah. And it's not like it's easy to tell if it's going to hit it or not.
And I gotta say, it's incredible. The mood for that stage was a little bit annoying because of that pole. Just because it's something that you cannot really predict or you cannot anticipate. It's just there. It's a looming threat. It's blocking your view from the opponent. So whenever you're serving, it's just right in front of you, staring in the face.
And I feel like every time I hit the pole, the ball comes back at me. Like I can never hit it so that it ricochets to their side. It just makes it come back at me and makes me lose a point. Whereas every time they hit it, it goes to my side and it's just like this perfect kill shot. And it's like, I don't feel like I have that much precision to easily manipulate this hazard.
Yeah. And, we're taking a lot of time talking about the pole, but, it's just one stage in the adventure mode.
I probably will not play on that stage. Really I just got to that part in the adventure mode and it's got, with the blooper, and I'm totally never going to use that stage in multiplayer if I can do it.
We're talking about it a lot, but it's really not that big of a part of the game. Most of the time, the stage hazards are at the very least telegraphed and interesting in a way that is something that affects how you make decisions instead of something just completely random.
All the others are fine. I like the one where there's guys that are just running across the stage and they sometimes whack the ball back at you, and it's still fun. It's somewhat predictable, and it's just a fun, silly hazard, and I like those. Just that one simple pole gives me aggravation. Yeah, but other than that,
that pole, that cursed pole.
Some of the people I know who have been playing online, I played a few matches online. Right now, I feel that there is a little bit of a concern with the matchmaking, and I feel that's because there's a lot of players who have already mastered the system and are playing at a very high level.
Right.
And I'm going on there, and several others I know have been going on there, who are just getting wrecked by people online.
Yes.
And you're not expecting that in a game like Mario Tennis. A lot of people aren't expecting to go on there and just be
immediately
shut
destroyed.
Out. Yeah. And the games are very fast, which is a benefit, but some people are also kind of upset that the game doesn't give you the option to play a full tennis match length, like with all the different sets that a normal tennis match might have. And there are a lot of people who feel like that's part of the strategy. It's learning someone's play style, getting in their head, making comebacks. I get that, though I personally think this game is not going for that. I feel this game is really trying to keep the game fast. If you're losing, all right, just let's end it and move on to the next, opponent. I think that's why they have that KO system in the first place that can end anything really instantly. But I can see why some people might not wish the game let you play full, drawn out, tennis matches.
Right.
Have you tried out a lot of different characters yet?
No, I haven't. Since the adventure mode, you don't really have that many options for characters.
Yeah, you have to play with just Mario, which is probably my only little pet peeve on there. I wish that I got characters along the way and maybe I can learn a little bit more. I mean, you learn about the opponent type characters because you play against them. Yeah. But I would like to have been able to maybe recruit some of these guys and say, oh, I want to play as the Blooper or Bowser Jr. for this stage. And I want to get used to the different character quirks that I can, get in there. Because I really like some of the styles. I like that the tricky characters can add a lot of curve to their shots. I also like the defensive characters that are very good at covering a lot of the screen. They can easily return shots because they have a very wide range. Some other general things I just wanted to note is that you really generally don't have to worry about keeping shots in bounds, except when you're doing a star shot. That's the only time you really have to worry about aim.
Yeah.
But I think all the other times you hit it, I almost never see a shot go out no matter where you hit it.
Yeah, I've played a lot of games already, and I think it's only really happened once or twice total.
Right. Only if you're all the way to the left and you tell it to curve to the left, will it go out. But generally the game doesn't make you worry about that kind of aiming. It'll always keep the shots in bounds. It's more about how you react defensively and how you spend that energy and only when you do those star shots do you actually precisely aim, and you can just shoot it out of bounds if you're not careful.
Yeah. Now, speaking of which, I do want to address one of the weird balancing concerns that people have online for the game. Apparently, it does look like trick shots are a little bit more beneficial to utilize than other things. So there's kind of a meta involved where trick shots are giving people a lot of energy for not as much risk as intended. But we are seeing a lot of announcements for Mario Tennis Aces updates in the future. And I feel like Camelot, the developers of this game, are looking to be continuously updating it and balancing it throughout the time, which is pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Yeah, I mean, like I told you what I was doing before. I was purposely leaving open my side. I was telling you how even against the AI, I would be doing trick shots just because there's so much energy to gain for doing those. And I can definitely see why that would be a big aspect of the meta. And whether it's a thing that, is it just a thing that we have to master? Is that just something that is going to be doing trick shots left and right and then only rarely doing something else? Or, I mean, maybe that's just not as entertaining. Maybe people want it to be a little bit more base tennis, and then only on emergencies are you supposed to do. Right. Should you only be whipping out trick shots on the rare occasion?
It's definitely something that I would rather hold off on making any definitive statements for, but it's just something that's burgeoning and to keep an eye out.
Well, you know what it could be? It could end up being the snaking of Mario Tennis.
Right. That's what I was thinking as well. If it's just a mechanic that's so leaning towards this one function, will it be so dominant that that's the only way to play? And I feel like something like this is so easily tweaked with a future patch that I'm not particularly concerned about it.
I feel like I'm actually even gravitating a little bit towards the non-super mode play. I actually played a few matches online simple without all the star shots and just getting to the core tennis gameplay. And I kind of dig it. I think that a lot of the rallies, a lot of the back and forth go on a bit longer. They feel a little more epic. They don't just get cut off by someone getting a star shot, and it's a little bit more of a test of endurance, I feel like.
Yeah, and I feel like all the different modes available, like simple mode and then the more standard modes, I feel like they might have their own metas, and they are their own experiences. And I like that there is that degree of customizability here for how you want to play, which is good.
Speaking of customizability, I was hoping to see a little bit more options to customize my characters. Yeah, like maybe see him with different rackets in gameplay. Maybe like change costumes for certain characters, little things like that. Or honestly, I wish I could have my Mii. I want to play as my Miis in this game.
Oh, that's actually a good idea. I wonder if that's a thing, or they didn't want to include that to avoid any Wii Sports comparisons, but
maybe it's something they'll release as a download, like an unlockable character down the line. Anyway, who knows?
Yeah, it makes sense. But I feel like there is a lot to this game. Now, people were a little concerned that the adventure mode was being beaten in about 10 or 12 hours, and I wonder what you think about that, Casey.
I think that's a more length than you would expect to get out of a solo mode in a sports game.
Yeah, so that I was actually a little confused about why people were complaining about 10 to 12 hours, because you're right, this is a sports game. You really wouldn't expect a single player out of this necessarily. I believe previous Mario sports games have had RPG modes, which this kind of is.
I mean, I've been breaking it up with, I would basically play till I got one of the Power Stones, and then I would play some of the AI matches. And the AI matches, I would play until I beat it, and I'm playing it on the second hardest level right now, and it would beat me about 20 times before I get up to par and could beat it once right now. That'll bleed a lot of time into it right now for me.
And I definitely want to say that I don't think you will want to get Mario Tennis Aces if you only intend to play solo or in single player.
Yeah,
that's
true.
This is a game that you want to play multiplayer, whether it's competitive with people online in tournaments or whether it's casually with friends locally, even online. I feel like you should come into this type of game expecting a multiplayer experience, and if that's not what you're looking for, this might not be the game for you.
I think this is going to be a game that we're just going to have a kind of a roll. I'm going to call it a rolling review. It's the kind of thing where we're going to have to talk about how our experience evolves and changes over the weeks, and how the community takes to it. So right now, I definitely can say I like it. I'm hooked. I keep turning it on whenever I can. I love the gameplay.
Yeah.
And I definitely feel I'm getting better at it, and it's a game that's going to have a definite skill cap that people are going to try to reach. But at the same time, I wonder if that skill cap is going to mean when I hand this game to somebody new, are they not going to like it because I'm going to just wreck any newbie in the game?
Yeah. Well,
Whereas Mario Kart, you can always just play it in a way it's like, all right, anyone can win. I could just, you're going to get a bunch of bullet bills and beat me sometimes. In this, someone new who picks it up and plays against me might just not have a shot.
Perhaps, but I feel like they're taking the fighting game approach for this, where this is naturally going to happen in fighting games where one person or a couple people in a group gets really good and they just can't be beaten by the more casual players. I think the Camelot figured that this is going to be the case and are instead going more heavily into setting up tournaments, making this truly competitive, while also just being an option for groups that are purely casual.
I think we're going to keep touching upon this in the weeks to come. So why don't we move over to the other Tennessee type game we played this week?
Yeah. So I don't even think we really planned this, but we also no, we weren't really, right? But we've actually been playing Spirit Sphere DX as well. If you don't know, this is a 2D pixel tennis game. Where
it's a top-down type game.
Top-down 2D pixel tennis game.
Yeah. And I would call it more, it reminds me more of an air hockey style game or a knock hockey type game.
Well, yeah, you're right. I feel like you're right. It is kind of like one of those disc jockey games that we reviewed in the past, actually. Yeah,
because you have a character. And even though, each player in this game has a character and you're on separate sides of this court, there's no net, but there is like a ball that bounces around, and you basically can just move your character into it to shove the thing in different directions and try to, get it into their goal. But each character that you pick has different attacks and special abilities that they can use in different ways. Like one of the characters is Lynn, who is basically Link, and she can swipe her sword. She could do a little charge attack and do a spin attack to slam it at the enemy. She can dash. Another character is this wizard who can teleport around a little bit, and he shoots little.
I think his name is Ozo.
Yes, Ozo, right? Yeah. He controls totally differently, but he has his own little set of special abilities. There's power ups you can grab on the stage. So you can grab a potion that might make you giant. You can grab arrows to try to shoot and stun the opponent and maybe, knock him out of the way of your shot so you can get it in the goal. Different things like that.
Yeah, so I definitely have to say what makes Spirit Sphere really special are the multitude of characters that are included in the game. I feel like the fact that every single character is kind of a reference to those classic 8-bits NES characters in the past, and they all play very differently. They
definitely have a whole different thing.
Yeah, they all have different styles of swings. They have different heavy attacks. They have different dash physics. And I feel like that's what really makes this game shine for me.
I like that. I mean, the characters do. What I really loved, and I've been doing, got to experience to a fullest with the last Switch Fest, we played all the different multiplayer modes and every which way, and there are a lot of fun ways to play this game.
Right.
The one that we got to play at E3, at Penny Arcade Expo.
PAX.
Yeah, at PAX East, where two players can share one Switch and you just hold it sideways and, with the two controllers still connected to it, but I'm seeing it from my point of view and I'm trying to get it to his side. He's seeing it from the reverse side, and it just works so nice and perfectly as a board with the, the two controllers on the ends of it. And that's great by itself. That I'm probably going to get infinite use out of this game, playing it on a train or playing it on a plane, anywhere. Just I can whip this out. People love that.
It's honestly such a novel way to play, and you really can't get this style of gameplay on any other console. Not the PS4, not the Xbox One, not even the PC, unless you're using some sort of tablet mode. But yeah, but that's a really unique control scheme that is striking.
The other little modes that were really good too, though, there's also a 2v2 mode. So you have 4 players, and you're playing basically doubles, not hockey. And the different characters in this really shine because you can pick. We started realizing that some characters are really good on defense, some are very good offensively, and you would see people picking teams based on that. Like, all right, I'll be the one who guards the goal. You be the front man and maybe cover, try to, some characters are better at curving shots than others. So they would be the one who try to curve the shots around and stuff. And that was really fun. But what I loved the most was the 2v1 mode, where one player is a boss monster. There is like one boss character in the game story mode, and he's like this giant like demon with a sickle and all these super attacks. You can call lightning down, you can shoot bubbles that'll go and harass the enemy, and 2 characters have to work together to beat this one really oppressive boss opponent. And it's really fun on both ends of this here.
I super dig asymmetrical games like that. The fact that you can do a 2v1 and that one person feels really special, being that boss character, while the 2 players also feel special because they're cooperating against a single opponent. That's not very common in this style of game, and I dig it for that.
Yeah, it is not a common thing, and I found it very fun and very satisfying, just something different, and it got a lot of people excited. Like, people did not want to stop playing this at Switch Fest. In fact, it spurred a lot of people to be like, to dig up all their various other 4-player, 6-player games that they had, and we started playing. It just made us want to play all these different multiplayer versus games that we had in our thing.
This game overall, I feel, is just really well built and well done. And I'm having a hard time finding something that I would like to complain about.
Yeah. And I also want to note the different stages.
Yeah.
All add such different types
Flavor.
of fun and different challenges. Like there's one stage that looks very simple, but it just has these subtle, like it just has angles on the side, and it doesn't look like the stage as much, but it actually just the angles of the edges are designed that you can ricochet shots very interesting ways to the opponent's side. And there's one stage, it's in a lava cave, and these lava spurts act as randomly changing goals. Like sometimes there's no lava spurts coming up, and just your entire side of the screen is open, and anywhere that you don't guard can be a goal. But then randomly they'll just change, and now it's only like, now there's only a couple little holes that they can get it through. And there's one stage with these levers, and you can hit buttons that as long as you're standing on a certain switch, it lowers the defenses on your opponent's side. So you have to make sure you stand on them, and skeletons appear and they start attacking you at the same time. It's crazy.
Yeah, and it's definitely a ton of fun. All the diversity of the stages make the overall gameplay experience really interesting on a fundamental level too, because it adds essentially kind of a mini game to the base game of air hockey that you're trying to go for.
Mm-hmm. Also, and then to add one more element of variety in the matches is you can change the ball that you play with, or the sphere. There's a whole bunch of spheres you can unlock.
That's all the spirit spheres. There's the magnet ball that kind of attracts itself towards each of the individual players. There's the fire sphere, which every single time you hit the sphere, it launches a fireball in your direction. So you have to be careful what angle and what direction you're hitting at. It definitely, there are a lot of little factors that add up to quite a large variety of gameplay, which is a lot of fun.
For a $9 game, it has an immense amount of variety, and it's very replayable if it's only a local multiplayer kind of thing. I mean, it also has a one-player mode, and I did play it on the hardest mode, and the hardest mode is very challenging.
Yes,
it took me a very long time to beat it.
It's very hard.
Yeah, it does give you plenty of pleasure to play one player also.
And I did have a little bit of a complaint regarding the fact that I never really felt compelled to use the heavy attacks as often.
With certain characters I do, and certain characters I do not.
So yeah, certain characters, they feel like a wasted move slot, and it feels so unuseful. But for some
like the dwarf, are you talking about maybe?
Well, yeah, there was a dwarf where you had to really like build up the heavy spin, and that gives you so little control that I feel like it's not worth it. A lot of the heavy attacks for the characters felt like they were higher risks with low payoff.
I feel like some of them are very hard, like the dwarf one, because he doesn't have any ability to control the ball after he hits it. So his was, I felt, it's almost like a desperation move. It's just like, I can't hit this shot, so I better just spin just as a last-ditch defense. Some characters I found it useful because when they hit with their charge attack, you can kind of add a extra twist to the ball. Like you can add a curve to it, and you can manipulate the shot after you hit it. But for some characters, I felt it was definitely less useful than others.
And I wasn't a big fan of the fact that some characters had really useful heavies than others. So it's just one of those things, but I don't think that it really detracted from the overall experience. I will say though, I really wish this game had online multiplayer.
Yeah, it does feel like the kind of game that would be very fun for that. Though I guess they might not have expected to have enough of a player base to support an online system. I still think that we'll probably get an unlimited amount of use of the local multiplayer because it is so easy to connect and to play. 2 players is super easy, and even playing 4 people on one Switch is not that hard to get going.
This definitely will thrive in local multiplayer situations, and honestly, I can't think of very many other games that I'd want to pick up and play than in a multiplayer setting than this.
Yeah, definitely. Very cool. All right, so I want to move on to the news rundown. I think we've had plenty of fun talking about all our different sphere bouncing games. So let's hear what's going on in the news and all that other fun stuff. All right, news rundown, and here are your headlines. And I really wanted to mention this one because I feel like right after we talked about this last episode, there was a fun set of tweets from Nintendo, between Nintendo and the official Microsoft Xbox Twitter accounts. And Mojang announced the they announced the new update and the cross-playability between, well, at least PC, Xbox, and Nintendo Switch. And
for Minecraft.
Yes. And it was really fun that, first off, Nintendo, who said, hey, Xbox, since we could play together, what do you want to build? And then Xbox responded, our bodies are ready. What are we building? And that's great. And then the Minecraft tweet about, well, since you two seem so lovey-dovey now, why don't you try building something like this? And they had a big giant heart on the picture. Yeah, I just think that's great.
That was pretty good. Yeah, I like that a lot.
People were really kind of attaching to this. And people started the memes about Nintendo and Xbox being like best friends and finding a relationship together and just kind of coming together. And they really ridden this. There was even a trailer this week that just aired, and it showed the expansion, and it shows a person in a red shirt and a person in a green shirt playing the game together. And there's a noticeable lack, and all the memes even were showing like Sony off in the corner playing by itself and being the outcast. And and in this trailer, it kind of felt like they're kind of driving that home. They're showing, Xbox and Nintendo people playing together, and kind of like, hey, Sony, you want to join in the fun or not?
Yeah, it was very tongue in cheek. It was very, very pointed at Sony, and I honestly can't blame them for taking advantage of the situation, since it is pretty silly for Sony to block that crossplay capability. Now, it is worth noting though that Sony actually did respond to this whole situation. I believe Sean Layden, who's the CEO of Sony Interactive in America, he actually has a quote that's directly referencing this whole situation. It's, quote, "We're hearing it. We're looking at a lot of the possibilities. You can imagine that the circumstances around that affect a lot more than just one game. I'm confident we'll get to a solution which will be understood and accepted by our gaming community, while at the same time supporting our business."
That doesn't sound too definitive to me.
No, but it's definitely addressing their concerns, letting us know that they know that we're talking about this. This is just a non-committal response, and I'm hoping that all the memes, all the fervor, all the articles are pushing Sony towards really opening their doors and joining in on all of the crossplay fun.
Yeah. Well, that's what we hope, but it kind of sounds like, the way they say that, like, and promoting our business, it's like them saying, it sounds to me almost like they're afraid that making it cross-play is going to hurt their business, where I feel it's exactly the opposite. I feel like
it's hurting their business, not
exactly
crossplay.
Exactly. And it's just, it kind of just makes them look like they're afraid of this cross-pollination, this ability for people like, oh no, don't talk to those Switch kids over there. They might start taking you to R-rated movies or teach you to smoke. It's like, no.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just like how this has been playing out, and I think it's been really cool that Microsoft has joined in, and no one's been mean. They've just been focusing on the friendly side and letting us fill in the other side of this whole there. It's been very, very skillfully and very good-natured in spirit.
And it's very good that Microsoft is getting positive reaction that much going for them right now. So yeah, let's play on that cross.
Do they? I mean, I did not know that if they're in any kind of like lull at the moment. I haven't really followed them.
Microsoft doesn't really have that much first-party support going for them. So yes. So speaking of which, it looks like PUBG, PlayerUnknown's Battleground, is dropping their lawsuit against Fortnite. There was a lawsuit previously from PUBG Corp against Epic Games because they feel like Fortnite was stealing the Battle Royale genre. That lawsuit has been dropped, so boom.
And speaking of Fortnite and things, the cross-play options, apparently the capture button that we use to, save our last 30 seconds of gameplays as videos can also pick up and save the voice chat that happens in games. Well, the only game that's available in is Fortnite. So it does seem like they can save the conversations in the video clips, which is just kind of funny because it's just an unexpected little side effect of that game having that voice chat feature in it.
That's going to be very good and potentially very bad because now you can quickly capture all the incriminating things they'll say online to you. It's kind of hilarious. It also looks like Nintendo is announcing another Nintendo Labo Creator Contest.
So there's there's a North American and a European branch of this contest, and you can, for North American players have a few ways to enter.
Yes, so it does look like North American players are looking to create a musical instrument and a game.
And they encourage you to put a YouTube video demonstrating your invention, and that can act as your submission. European players can either show off a customization using stickers, pens, whatever they want on a toy con of choice. And there's also a kids category where they can submit an original toy con creation.
And now I have to say the prize for this is kind of amazing. It looks like they're giving away Nintendo Labo themed Switches for the winners, and it looks like a cardboard Switch, but
it's a pretty cool color.
It's functionally a Switch. The novelty of this color scheme, incredible, and I'd want to see that in person.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking. It's a nice little novelty thing. Though granted, if you are entering this contest, you probably already own a Switch, so this will be a backup or a secondary one for you, or maybe you'll sell your old one because this is the cool special edition one.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd even have the guts to open it. I
That's
feel like,
true. That's true. It could just be a nice collector's thing to keep.
Yeah.
So apparently The World End With You is getting a limited edition bundle. This is only announced in Japan right now, but for this about $150 set, people will have access to, well, the game. There is a mini soundtrack, a big art book, a stylus pen, a little standee, a little character standee, some foil stickers, a puffy stickers, and a reusable bag, a little like tote baggy kind of thing.
Honestly, I'm actually really excited for The World Ends With You on the Switch. I loved the DS game, and this is one of those games that I replayed a lot back then, but I haven't touched for years.
Pokemon Quest is coming. It just hit mobile today, so if it's just funny, you know, the game we were playing on Switch. I'm not sure have you played it at all on Switch since it released?
Honestly, I don't think I have.
I have not actually looked at it, but when this came out on mobile today, a few people in my office were really crazy about it, and they were like, this is the perfect kind of mobile game. It really just kind of fit there. So, you know, maybe if you liked it on Switch, but you didn't find yourself turning it on as much, it might be the kind of game that has a better home on your mobile. It's just the kind of thing you'll, you know, pull out more often. Either way, I mean, I have turned it on once or twice on my Switch since, but I've been, you know, more focused on the deeper games, and I haven't really, I don't play too many time killer mobile games lately, you know what I mean?
Yeah. All right. So lastly, Arena of Valor is having their closed beta start on the 28th. So I believe that is today. All right. So there's a closed beta. There are sign up forms that you can fill out on their website.
I filled mine out today, so there's a chance I might be able to start playing it this week.
Yeah, and I'm filling mine out literally right now.
All right. Well, I'll definitely leave a link to that in the show notes just in case anyone wants to give it a shot. It might be too late, but it's always worth a shot to try to get in.
Yeah.
All right. And the updates, Fortnite version 4.5 just hit this week, and they added some new weapons. But what I thought was most interesting was the new playground mode. And this is something, the first 10 minutes I started playing this game, I was like, where's this mode where I can just practice and play freely and just practice the building and the controls without having to worry about being shot the second I'm like, all right, how do I build anything interesting? So it's just kind of a free, you know, jump around and practice the building kind of thing.
Yeah. And honestly, and I have to say the building aspect of Fortnite by itself, I feel like is really rewarding in its own way. I kind of want to see what the types of buildings that people create, a sandbox, playground, just
yeah, it's kind of what it is. Yeah, basically a sandbox. I think that this is going to open things up because right now I just feel like the game is trying to make building such an important part, but all I ever see is people making boxes and these like very simple towers, and yeah, I'm sure that has a certain strength to it, but I feel like once people could sit down and experiment freely for hours, they're going to get very proficient, especially in teamwork, you know, for the multiplayer games, at making much higher level fortifications. They also are replacing the Final Fight Team of 20 mode with Final Fight Teams of 12 mode, so I guess a little smaller groups there.
Yeah, so it'll be a quicker experience. I can see that.
Oh, right. Bomberman R is getting a bunch of new stuff added to it.
You know, one of the biggest concerns early on was that this game was kind of light on content, and now they're really expanding the offering that Super Bomberman R is providing. And interestingly enough, we're getting Snake in Super Bomberman R.
Yes, both Naked Snake and Solid Snake Bomber, along with Raiden Bomber, all from the Metal Gear series.
Yeah. And
the snakes are both voiced by David Hayter, the actual voice actor himself for the character.
Yes. He is the Snake for me, honestly.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
As much as Kiefer Sutherland was a good Snake for Metal Gear Solid 5, you just cannot beat David Hayter for that role. I'm sorry.
In addition, they have Bill and Lance Bombers, the Contra duo. Abisumaru Bomber, he is the blue mustache guy from Legend of the Mystical Ninja.
Yep.
Vic Viper Zero Bomber.
Yes,
I do not know Ayako Katagiri, but she looked like she was from some like visual novel or something like that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And real life wrestler, WWE wrestler Xavier Woods Bomber.
Oh, that's random, but I'll take it, sure.
But the most interesting thing, I think, was the Grand Prix mode. This is a new mode in the game that is focused around this checkpoint rule where you're trying to control sections of the map and invade territory rather than just, trying to slowly kill each other. It's about controlling areas, which is and it looks like it's a much bigger map. So I think this could be a nice fresh spin on the combat to the game. And, the fact that this is a new mode, a new way to play this game over a year after its release, I'll definitely give them kudos for not giving up on this and keeping the combat interesting.
Yeah. As I mentioned previously, it's really cool that they're adding value to their game that originally was to be pretty light. Oh, yeah. So the motorbike Labo control system that you had and created with the Variety Kit can now be used to control Mario Kart 8, which is super cool.
And you just need to download the update to Mario Kart 8. Once you download it, there'll be an option to make that the control mode, and you stick in your Switch tablet into that thing, and boom, you're going.
This makes so much sense, considering the weird peripherals that you had to pay for on the Wii version. Just integrating the Nintendo Labo motorbike, it's something that just fits. So it looks like we are getting essentially a week 1 update for Mario Tennis. Within the next few days, we are getting an update that should include ranked mode, which allows for matchmaking to be a bit more discriminating based on the points that you've scored.
I do think that's going to be an important tweak to playing multiplayer. I just remember when I played Pokken Tournament and I was, I would be waiting for an opponent. I was fine with the fact that it took a while to find an opponent in that game, and you would have to, you could play the computer while you waited, but that was much better than me finding an opponent quickly and it being someone who's just so far out of my league. I just have no way. I can't even, it's nice to play someone who's maybe a level or two above you and you can learn something from them. But when someone is just light years beyond your skill, you don't learn anything. You just learn how to suffer and die. I think that if this has a system and it does keep the people's ranks close to each other who play, it'll help people improve as they play. You'll probably play someone who's better than you, but as long as it's not someone who's so much better than you that you just don't stand a chance, it'll help bring up the community. All right, down the pipe, we have a couple of interesting games that have been confirmed to either be coming to the Switch down the line or finally got a release date. We have Pinstripe. This is a cool, it's a platformy adventure puzzle game with a pretty serious plot as you play this priest who's exploring basically different levels of hell in search of his 3-year-old daughter to rescue her basically from hell. And it's kind of interesting, but it's a dark but kind of a beautiful little story the way they portray this. The Lion Song. Now this is a game that's piqued my interest as well. This is a point and click adventure with 4 chapters. It looks like it's coming. This is going to come out July 10th, and it involves the story of 4 different struggling artists, and you're going to make choices that will affect their different stories. There's a composer, a painter, a mathematician, and a writer, and it has this very nice kind of sepia art style and very pencil-y kind of drawings to it. Very hand-drawn sort of art style. I like it, and it has this really haunting music I was listening to.
And I do love that they consider math an art.
Yes, right. A lot of these kind of stories. Now, this next one, My Brother Rabbit, this is going to make me cry, I can tell already. This is going to be a tearjerker, and it's in the same realm. A lot of these artistic games here that seem to have been announced. This is another adventure game, but it's about a fantasy world created by this brother and sister. And the sister, it sounds like she is like seriously ill. And the brother is creating this world in order to basically escape their sad reality and possibly find a cure for her through this imagined world they're going through. And it's kind of like a Alice in Wonderland look to it. But I know I can tell right now, and I'm probably going to ask for a review code for this. I might cry while playing this. This definitely is something that already got me choked up just looking at the trailer.
Well, I didn't watch the trailer. It reminds me of one of those Pokemon creepypastas where Ash Holt and the world of the first season of Pokemon was all in his dream. That's why certain things happened in certain ways.
That's coming fall 2018. Pato Box is...
Pato Box.
Yes, that's coming July 9th. That's the duck-based Punch-Out style game.
Yep.
Hiroki coming July 20th. Adventure platformer with these little helicopter head people. Looks pretty cool and cute. Thimble. This is a Norse action fighting game with it seems like there's a lot of decisions in this game as well. It uses this thing called the thread of life system, where you can go back to any point in the story where you made some sort of critical decision to change those choices, but the game auto saves as you go through. So it's the kind of thing where I'm not sure whether you have to live with your choices or you're expected to go back and experiment with how your different combination of choices change things. But it's in a very fantasy Norse world. You're fighting ice giants, and you have a team of your hero Vikings as you're on some adventure. Midnight Caravan. This has the interesting honor of being the first Switch game I've seen with nudity.
Ooh.
This is a game, again, it has a similar art style as that other artsy game I mentioned before with the kind of sepia look, hand pencil drawn, but you're the leader of this caravan that makes its profits through various, dealings with gamblers, prostitutes, things like that, and other miscreants that you have to find a way to make a living in your kind of dark world that you're dealing with. But it takes place in I'd say Renaissance Italy, it kind of looks like.
Yeah, and it definitely pulls from that art style, that era's art style as well.
Yeah.
I don't know how visually exploitative it is with the nudity, but it looks like they're really embracing the M rating in an artistic fashion.
Yeah, there's I'll just say, literally just watching the trailer, there is a lot of top nudity just in the trailer. So. Right. That's giving you an idea of what to expect in this game. So, obviously, parents, take note. And Inazuma 11 has been confirmed to be coming to the West 2019. This actually would have been my system switch this episode if it was not already been announced. I love this. This is a level 5 series. It's an RPG / soccer sim where you recruit a team of characters and you have to basically go through RPG text adventure elements, and then the decisions you make affect your team, and then you actually go out and you have to use that team that you've collected in the story mode to play actual soccer games that are very stat-based, but also have some action controls too.
I gotta say, it was a real missed opportunity to release this year because of all the World Cup hype that's going on.
That's true. But this is a very popular series in Japan. Yes. It's been on 3DS before, but I don't think we got them in the West before.
I believe we got the first one.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so JB, why don't you tell us about the new releases this week?
All right, so on June 28th, we are getting Neo Geo Money Puzzle Exchanger, Arcade Archives Renegade, Dream Alone, Figment, Fossil Hunters, Grave Danger, Inside, Limbo, MotoGP 18, No Heroes Here, Paranautical Activity, Photon Cube, The Journey Down Chapter 2, Back to Bed, and Galaxy Variant S. So that game has been released many times. We're getting it finally. On June 29th, we're getting, Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus. That's gonna be a huge pickup. Anima, Gate of Memories, Crash Bandicoot, Insane Trilogy, that's another one. Waking Violets, Burnstar. On July 2nd, we're getting Spirit Sphere DX, July 3rd, we're getting Runbow. And July 4th, we're getting Nekopara Volume 1.
Very cool. All right, and we'll probably have to catch up on our next podcast on the ones that are coming the week after, though I will note July 5th is Pocket Rumble. I'm going to throw that on there.
We'll
Community
see.
Pulse.
We'll see.
Yeah. I love this game
We'll
we're
see.
playing. I love this. All right, why don't we take a breather and close out the show with our Community Pulse and see what games you guys would like to see come to the Switch in the sports genre. All right, Community Pulse. So yes, once again, we have asked you guys if you're playing Mario Tennis Aces and what other sports or sports-like games that you would like to see come to the Switch. And JV, why don't you read us some voices of the community?
All right, so starting with Jeffrey Kappenberg, he says, Wii Sports should return as Switch Sports. Even if it was just the same games as in the first two, there's no reason not to have that available on a platform this modular. Mobile gaming can never replace local multiplayer, no matter what some Think Feast has to say about the casual.
Yeah, it's one thing. We've kind of been pining for that since the release of the Switch.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to take as antagonistic as a position against mobile gaming, but I do think that something that casual audiences can gravitate towards, like a Switch Sports, would be wonderful.
I do think he makes a solid point that the one thing that I think that mobile gaming, can't take away from something like the Switch is the local multiplayer, is the fact that we, especially on one console, the fact that we have this big tablet that multiple people can gather around. Peter J. Ortiz wrote, nowadays, I would gravitate towards wanting a Mario volleyball game. Super Mario Spikers, anyone? I love that name. I love that name. And
it would be perfect.
I could see that working. Mario Volleyball, I could see it, 2v2, right? And it could be a very good partnersy kind of game. It could even be one-on-one, but I could see it more focusing on the 2v2 aspect, or go full on, six teams, or 5-on-5 teams. Something like that could even work. And really get a lot of characters on the screen at once and a lot of different abilities, but more likely than not, it'd probably be a 2v2 game. And it could have all the different features that we're used to with like super spikes and special abilities, whatever. Yeah. It would it's a game that writes itself.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. It would be a very easy to translate Super Mario Spiker, or to translate Mario into a volume. So easy. Mm-hmm. So, Albert Gomez said, Virtua Tennis was my first Pong obsession of ball bouncy back and forth. Mario Tennis games were the extra doses of fun you get from an amusement park. I would like to see a new Hoops game down the line. With the current generation of gaming, now they could do so much with it. That's right. I have to say, the Mario Hoops game was actually quite underrated for the Nintendo DS. Do you remember that game? It was the 3v3 Super Mario Hoops game, which is the basketball.
Oh, I bought that. And then
I thought it was underrated.
I bought a copy of it for my friend to play with me, but it didn't have multiplayer.
Oh.
I was very upset to find that out. I actually bought a second copy just so my friend could play it with me, and it didn't have local multiplayer of any sort. And but it was a fun game. Yeah, I did like that game, but I was just really crestfallen when I realized I can't play anyone else.
That's so weird, because I could have sworn I played it local. I don't know. I know for sure it did not have online. Yeah, we should definitely check on that, because I feel like it should have.
Maybe it had something. Yeah, I can't see it. I do see that it does have multiplayer listed, but it must have been very limited in some way.
Yeah, so I definitely... I definitely think that Mario Hoops is an underrated Mario Sports spin-off. I do agree there were a lot of multiplayer limitations for its time, but now bringing it back to the Switch, I feel like, why not? Why can't they get all the multiplayer functionality that was missing previously?
Claw on Twitter wrote, Mario Golf, throw in a golf story style adventure mode with the same style multiplayer as Mario Tennis Aces. That has potential right there. I mean, I could see Mario lifting a lot of the cool RPG or story elements of the golf story type game. I could even see that being the kind of game where it lets you explore and maybe like move around in like a Mario 64 style or Mario Odyssey kind of exploration, and then just the courts just kind of being there as you explore and you find places to shoot your golf balls. I see this being a pretty good fit, and I would like to see that. I also have to note that almost everybody else on Twitter wrote Mario Strikers, and then everyone just kind of seconded that suggestion.
Oh, come on, you guys. You stole my system, Switch.
It really is like the best choice. That was like the most timeless of them all, but we'll give you a chance to talk about that more.
All right. So I guess if we want to transition into the system switch already.
Yeah, why don't you go for it?
It's very clear. Mine is Mario Strikers Charged, or even any of the Mario Strikers. If you don't already know, Super Mario Strikers is the soccer permutation of the Mario Sports, I guess, spin-off games. What made Mario Strikers special is just the feel of soccer with all of the different Mario characters and all of the different Mario items coming into play throughout the entire field. Especially with Charged, you had a lot of customization with the types of soccer players that you employed. They all had different behavior and all of the different special items that you can use. And the fact that it's so physical, and so it's a soccer mixed with all of the item craziness and actually a surprising amount of skill.
And it had that edgier art style for the characters too. Like they looked,
right,
pretty tough and edgy in there, especially when they did the super shots and the glow behind their eyes. It was really awesome.
If you pull up Mario Strikers Charge, you'll notice the artwork is a lot more intense and sketched out.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Something that I wanted to bring up because... So this came out because after we had played a lot of Spirit Sphere at the Switch Fest, we broke out. One of the multiplayer games we broke out was Stickbold, which is it goes up to 5 or 6 players. It's like a dodgeball game where you're in an arena and you're in a circle, and there's all sorts of hazards that can knock you out anyway. And it was a fun game, and that made me think of Super Dodgeball, the Kunio version, the one with like those like River City Ransom style characters. All right. Super Dodgeball, I love that game on Super Nintendo. There was a lot of options for customizing a whole team of characters. You'd have a whole you could have 5-on-5 or was it 6-on-6, something like that. And then there was even the every man for himself mode where you'd all just be in a big group and, you'd play eliminate players randomly from the group in a big mob and a big survival mode like that. And it was just a really solid, either you could play it as the sports game in the team on team mode with a great 1-player mode and a whole bunch of options there, or you could play it in the just, every man for himself, easy game for like 4-player mayhem, for local or online. I just thought it was really cool. The Kunio Super Dodgeball game, would love to see that brought it back. And actually it's not too far-fetched because there was a story just this week. 3 Kunio games, including Super Dodgeball, were released on Super Famicom cartridges together. And I mean that, like an actual Super Famicom cartridge. 3 of those Kunio games, including Super Dodgeball, were released together on Super Famicom, or at least announced this week, in case anyone is interested in literal cartridges for a Super Nintendo in Japan.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's our episode this week, JV.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Just looking back at this specific episode, we talked a lot about sports, but considering, we're not the most sports savvy, I feel like it was appropriate that we talked about a Mario sports game and a pixel-related.
Yeah,
I
very
felt
true,
like that was pretty appropriate.
I guess, hey, everybody, hope you all have a happy 4th of July.
Until next time.
Switch it up. Thanks for listening. You can support the SwitchCast by visiting us at patreon.com/theswitchcast and join the review crew by rating us and subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Also check out our Discord chat where we have an enthusiastic bunch of Switch fans in a family-friendly environment. Also join our Facebook group for daily discussion and quite a bit of activity towards the Switch itself.
You can also contact us directly via email at kc@theswitchcast.com and jv@theswitchcast.com. Talk to us on Twitter @theswitchcast.
Thank you, HeatleyBros, for the theme music. And check us out on our website at theswitchcast.com, where we will post all relevant links and show notes.
Promotional considerations provided by publishers in the form of review copies of games. Stop meowing. Come here.
It's Fortnite, guys. It's not box night.